A dark road on the outskirts of Lausanne, Switzerland, 1937. A car pulls up suddenly, its headlights cutting through the night. Gunshots ring out, shattering the silence. A body falls, and a Soviet defector's life ends at the hands of a ruthless assassin. But I'm getting ahead of myself. This tale of international intrigue, hidden identities, and Cold War espionage begins much earlier, in a place far removed from the shadowy world of spies and assassins. This is the story of Vladimir Sergeyevich Pravdin, the Soviet spy you never heard of. The article The Face of Soviet Espionage in the United States during the Stalin Era, by author and historian Stephen T. Usdin, sheds a light on a lesser-known Soviet spy during the Stalin Era. A link to the full article is in the description. The year is 1905, and in London, a virtuoso cellist named Louis Abbiate and his Russian Jewish wife, Margaret, welcomes their son, Roland, into the world. Roland's early years are steeped in the world of high culture. His father, known as the Paganini of the cello, performs for elite audiences across Europe. In 1911, the family moves to St. Petersburg, where Louis takes a position as a professor at the prestigious conservatory. Here, young Roland grows up in a multilingual household, speaking French with his father and Russian with his mother, while also becoming fluent in English. But the gilded bubble of the Abbiate family's life is about to burst. In 1917, the Russian Revolution sweeps through the country, upending the old order. For a foreign-born musician who had served the aristocracy, the new Bolshevik regime is a threat. In 1920, Louis, Marguerite, and Roland flee, leaving behind Roland's sister, Mireille, and her Soviet aviator husband. Imagine the teenage Roland, his world turned upside down, arriving in Paris, destitute and traumatized. The next few years see Roland adrift, trying to find his place in the world. He works on a farm in England, then moves to Monte Carlo, where he takes jobs as a waiter and courier. 2 decades later, when police forces across Europe and in the United States investigate his activities, they figured out his movement started in the winter of 1925. However, they could not figure out his motives. In December 1925, with a fresh British passport in hand, 20-year-old Roland Abbiate boards the SS Patria to Marseille, bound for New York. But his entry into the land of opportunity is far from smooth. On Ellis Island, Immigration Inspector William Cancer pulls Abbiate aside, suspicious of this young man who claims to be a hotel manager but has little money and no job prospects. Cancer ordered detention for Roland at Ellis Island. After 5 days of detention on Ellis Island, Abbiate manages to persuade the authorities to let him enter the United States. But his American dream is short-lived. Just 3 months later, in a twist that seems almost comical in hindsight, Abbiate is arrested for impersonating an immigration officer, the very type of official who had nearly denied him entry. This escapade lands Abbiate in the Atlanta Federal Penitentiary for 2 years. As the author notes, Abbiate gained an intimate familiarity with the underside of American life, an experience that would serve him well in his future career. In February 1928, Abbiate is deported to England, his passport stamped with a prohibition on re-entering the United States. Little does anyone know that he will return years later, right under the noses of the government. The next chapter of Abbiate's life takes a dramatic turn. In 1931, his sister, Mireille, visits the family in France. During her stay, she is recruited by Soviet intelligence, and she introduces her brother to OGPU officials. Just like that, Roland Abbiate enters the shadowy world of espionage. Abbiate is enlisted into Serebryansky's service, also known as Yasha's group. This isn't just any intelligence unit. It's an independent group that reports directly to the chief of the OGPU and specializes in dangerous and violent activities. As Stephen Usdin describes it, their main task is hunting down, abducting, and killing enemies of the people. Why did Abbiate agree to this dangerous work? Usdin speculates. He may have been motivated by a longing for adventure, an affinity for the country where he grew up, or a desire to rebel against his father. Whatever his reasons, Abbiate throws himself into his new role right away. Over the next 6 years, Abbiate becomes a true international man of mystery. He travels extensively, living in Italy, France, Norway, Bulgaria, Switzerland, and Yugoslavia. He adopts a series of identities: Francois Rossi, Roland Smith, Dr. Benoit, Carol Georges Quinn. His linguistic skills serve him well. He speaks English, Russian, French, Italian, and Serbian fluently, with a basic understanding of German and Spanish. But it's in 1937 that Abbiate truly proves his worth to his Soviet handlers. He's assigned a crucial mission to eliminate Ignace Poretsky, a veteran Soviet intelligence officer who has denounced Stalin as the hangman of the best representatives of the Russian worker. The details of this operation reads like a spy novel. Abbiate travels to Rome, where he seduces Gertrude Schildbach, an older German communist who had been friends with Poretsky. He convinces her not only of his intention to marry her, but also of the need to help him murder her old friend. The assassination takes place on a dark road near Lausanne, Switzerland. Abbiate, along with an accomplice, ambushes Poretsky. 9 bullets are fired, and Poretsky's body is dumped by the roadside. It's a brutal, efficient operation that demonstrates Abbiate's commitment to the OGPU. This grim success earns Abbiate the Order of the Red Banner, one of the highest honors in the Soviet Union. He's also granted Soviet citizenship, but perhaps most significantly, he's given a new identity. Vladimir Sergeyevich Pravdin, supposedly born in 1905 in St. Petersburg. The next stop for Vladimir is to return to the United States. In October 1941, he and his wife Olga arrive in Seattle aboard the SS Tbilisi. Their mission is to rebuild Soviet intelligence operations in the United States, which have been depleted by a series of setbacks. Pravdin's cover is ingenious. He's posted as an editor and later director of TASS, the Soviet news agency in the United States. This position gives him access to the highest echelons of American journalism and politics. As the author notes, employees of Soviet news organizations were treated in the United States as unofficial government representatives, unbound by the duties and expectations imposed on diplomats, and free to travel widely, meet formally and informally with American government officials, journalists, and business leaders, and ask them questions about almost any topic. One of Pravdin's most significant relationships was with Walter Lippmann, the most influential American journalist of the era. Lippmann, believing he's cultivating a valuable source, unwittingly provides Pravdin with sensitive information about US military plans and diplomatic strategies. In one lunch meeting, Lippmann shares details about the upcoming invasion of Europe, Anglo-American relations, and US military plans in the Pacific. But Pravdin's work goes far beyond gathering information from unwitting sources. He also manages a network of Soviet agents within the US government. One of his most valuable assets is Harry Dexter White, a senior Treasury Department official. White provides detailed information about US negotiation strategies for the founding of the United Nations. Perhaps Pravdin's most daring recruitment is Judith Kaplan, a young employee at the Department of Justice. Kaplan has access to FBI counterintelligence files, providing the Soviets with invaluable insight into US efforts to uncover their espionage activities. Pravdin's report on Kaplan gives us a glimpse into the psychology of his agents. She stressed how much she appreciates the trust placed in her and that, knowing whom she is working for, from now on she will redouble her efforts. Pravdin's reports to Moscow paints a picture of a man deeply committed to his work. Of Kaplan, he writes that she treats our assignments very seriously and conscientiously, and considers our work the main job in her life. He notes that she even broke off an engagement because it would have interfered with her espionage work. But the life of a spy is fraught with danger and uncertainty. In November 1945, Pravdin's world is shaken when Elizabeth Bentley, a former Soviet agent, defects to the FBI. Bentley's revelations threaten to unravel the entire Soviet espionage network in the United States. The aftermath of Bentley's defection reveals the precarious nature of espionage work. Pravdin receives an encrypted message from Moscow Center stating that Bentley has betrayed us and instructing him to take the appropriate precautionary measures. This means breaking off contact with all US agents and essentially shutting down the entire operation. Pravdin's time in the United States comes to an abrupt end in March 1946. He's ordered to return to Moscow. As he boards the SS Kirov in New Jersey, he must reflect on the irony of his situation. Nearly 2 decades earlier, he had been deported from the US after being caught impersonating an immigration officer. Now he's leaving again, this time as one of the most successful Soviet spies in American history. Back in the USSR, Pravdin's career takes several turns. He's briefly posted to Berlin as a TASS correspondent, but returns to Moscow after only 3 months due to illness. In 1948, he becomes editor-in-chief for the Foreign Language Publishing House, a prestigious position with a generous salary. But even in this seemingly safe role, danger lurks. In the summer of 1952, Pravdin is given the perilous task of editing translations of Stalin's works into English. As Usdin notes, a single word or phrase that offended Stalin could have landed everyone associated with the translation project in prison or an unmarked grave. After a few nerve-wracking months, Pravdin manages to be relieved of this duty. In June 1953, Pravdin returns to intelligence work, joining the sabotage department of the Ministry of Internal Affairs. But his return is short-lived. After only 2 months, he is fired as part of a house cleaning that follows the downfall of Lavrenti Beria, the feared head of Soviet state security. Unlike many of Beria's associates, Pravdin isn't executed or imprisoned. He even retains his Communist Party membership, but his days of high-stakes espionage are over. He finds work as an editor at a scientific journal in Moscow. Pravdin's story comes to a tragic end in 1962. According to files leaked by a KGB archivist, he died by suicide. The man who had lived so many lives, who had moved seamlessly between cultures and identities, who had played a crucial role in one of the most extensive espionage operations in US history, ends his days in relative obscurity in Moscow. And so we leave Vladimir Pravdin, master spy, man of many faces, player on the grand stage of Cold War history. His life, as compelling as any fiction, serves as a stark reminder of the hidden forces that shape our world and the complex, often contradictory nature of those who move behind the scenes of history. Thank you for watching this video about Vladimir Pravdin, a spy who managed to fool one of the strongest nations on Earth. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe and hit the bell to be notified about future videos. This has been Fuel for Your Thoughts. I will see you in the next video.